If your handlebars rotate no matter how hard you tighten them, this is how you fix that.
A lot of times the problem is that they've painted both surfaces, the surface of the handlebars and the surface of what it connects to, and the paint kind of acts like a lubricant, letting it slip. So if you take some sandpaper and sand everywhere that it's going to connect, the sand in here, and then sand down your bars to take the paint off of them, then it'll be metal on metal and they'll be less likely to rotate. So after you've sanded it, when you tighten the bolts down, tighten them little bit, go crisscross a little bit at a time. And then if you've got one of these type of headsets, just make sure there's a gap on both sides that's about even. You don't want to crank it all the way down on one side and have it wide open on the other. Now you don't want to use too much torque and rip the threads out if it's one of these cheap Walmart bikes, because these are made out of old Chinese beer cans. So too much torque will destroy it. So tighten them up pretty tight, test it out, and then try a little more torque after that. But sanding it down should be the secret to make it work. All right, so the sanding of the paint method I've heard works very well for most folks. I couldn't really get the handlebars to move when I was riding around, but my son did. He's a lot harder on bikes than I am. So what we're going to try next is put a little JB Weld in there. All right, so we got a delicious, nutritious heaping helping of JB Weld on the top side and on the bottom side, and that is going to do it. We're going to put it together and then wait 14 to 20 hours, and it'll be solid. This will not move. If it's not going to move, you better make sure you get your handlebar in exactly the right position. So we're going to put it in the perfect BMX position. All right, so what is the perfect position for handlebars on a BMX bike? Obviously, if you're riding a cruiser or something, you just put them wherever they're comfortable. But on a BMX bike, because he's going to be throwing bar spins, get right above the fork, right above the bolt, and then straight out from the fork leg, you want it to be even with the handlebar, because when you're throwing a bar spin, you want it to be even. So if it's tilted really far forward, then it's going to come way back and hit you in the balls. It's got a tensile strength of 3,960 psi. That means there's at least 3 square inches of surface area there on the bike that connect the handlebars to the stem. So that means if your kid weighs less than 12,000 pounds, even if you have a big fat kid that you're giving this bike to, he's not going to be able to break it loose.
So my son took the bike to the park to give it an extreme handlebar workout there, and we found out that the JB Weld held up just fine under stressful conditions like a tail whip. But we also found that you need to JB Weld every other piece of a Walmart bike if you want it to hold together, unfortunately. So the old gooseneck popped out of the old stem there, and so maybe if you shove some JB Weld down that hole and every other hole in the bike, you'll have a real extreme BMX rider. I would say sand it down first. If that doesn't work, try the JB Weld. If that doesn't work, drill a hole in here. The problem with drilling a hole in here is it's going to weaken everything up, weaken up your handlebars because it's a hole. But if you drill a hole all the way through, top to bottom, and put a bolt in there, that'll stop it for sure too.